Hey guys, in today's video, we are checking out my main wireless system that I've used over the years and probably the one that I recommend the most for people who are looking for wireless for their guitar, bass, violin, or instruments. This is the Sennheiser EW series, and this is by far one of the best wireless systems I've ever used. It's insanely reliable, and I highly recommend if you're looking for a very, very good wireless system at a reasonable price point. You know, I play over 100 shows a year. This is my main wireless system that I use. It's insanely reliable. There's a couple of different versions of it. There's the EW100 and there's the EW500. There is a 300, but mostly it's the 100 or the 500 are the two that I'm going to review in this one. And there are two different versions as well. So either way, this is going to be the transmitter. And then you have the option to get something like this for the receiver, like a standard, receiver unit with antennas, or you can also get another one of these that acts as a receiver and you can have it be more portable, which is actually how I use it. But I'm going to go over the specs, the setup, why I think this is one of the best systems, one of my favorite features in here, the setup, scanning, syncing, just everything that you need to know about using it. And I'm also going to compare the 100 to the 500 series as well to see which one is right for you. So before we get started, I post videos like this all the time, stuff on wireless, in-ear monitors, MIDI programming, Helix, HX Stomp, backing tracks, lighting, stuff like that. If you're interested in seeing more videos like this in the future, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to ring the bell if you want to be notified when I put out new videos. And if you find this video helpful, hitting the like button is a free way to support the channel. All right, let's get started. All right, so setup is super simple. So in the back, you screw in the antennas back here. Get two of them, which is always nice. You do have the way to rack mount this too if you are interested in having this live in a rack. Plug in the back. If you plan to use this with, instruments or quarter-inch or any sort of quarter-inch output, you would plug in your quarter-inch here and then plug the other side into the first input on your pedal board or your amp or wherever you're trying to send the signal to. If you're using this with like a microphone or something like that, plug in out the XLR and send that to front of house or your in-ear monitors or wherever you're trying to send the wireless microphone signal to. Turn it on. Gives you some information about like what channel you're on and stuff like that. On the transmitter, open it up. 2 AA batteries. You have the on switch right here. And turn it on. You do have a mute switch up here on the top as well, so if you want to mute the signal. But when it's unmuted, you can see that there's no longer a mute signal. When I push mute on, you can see that mute turns on. The thing that's interesting about this system, though, is you have to have this specific cable that goes into the transmitter, which is actually really nice because it goes in and then it screws in. So there's no way for it to get unplugged. I have lost this cable before, and I tried just using another 3.5 millimeter cable to a quarter-inch, and it did not work. It was really weird. When I would turn the volume down on my guitar, you'd get this weird sound. So you do want to make sure that you always use this type of Sennheiser cable, and I do recommend getting a spare one just to be safe. But the fact that it has the screw on there to keep it from coming out is actually really awesome, and I actually really love that about this system. So if you do decide to do this with this portable setup that I mentioned, so this is the transmitter and it still has the mute switch on top and everything. What's different is that this one is the receiver, and you can see that it says receiver on the back actually. So the only thing different, it's the exact same thing. You put in 2 batteries, you turn it on, and then you just plug out of AF out to wherever you're trying to send the signal. This one, you do not need that specific screw-in cable. You can actually just use a standard 3.5 millimeter to quarter-inch cable, or at least that's the one that I use anyways, because I use this with guitar. And like I said, this is the main system that I use, but I think most of you are going to do this type of a setup. So just for going forward, I will say that I did do a video about how this is a multi-use system. So I actually use this setup to run like PA speakers. I use it for lavalier mics for like people for speeches and stuff like that. I did a whole video explaining this setup. So to keep this video more consistent, I'm just going to recommend if you want to see how to do this setup at the end of this video, go watch that one. But for the most part, I'm just going to deal with this type of a setup because I think that's what most people are interested in. All right, I'm going to show you how to sync and scan and all that stuff. But first, let's just go over some of the specs here really quick. So the most important things is that this one has a transmission range of 100 meters or 300 feet, which is great. So the RF tuning bandwidth. So I did a video explaining what to look for in a wireless system. If you haven't seen that, I would recommend to go watch it to get a more in-depth guide about what you should be looking for in a wireless system. But one of the most important things to know about is the RF tuning bandwidth. And that is basically the wider the RF tuning tuning bandwidth, the more frequencies it has to choose from to find a clean channel. So this one has a 42 megahertz bandwidth with up to 1,680 selectable frequencies. It does not mean you can use 1,600 of these all at once. It just means that there is a 42 megahertz bandwidth of frequencies that it can search through to find a clean channel. And on this one, it says you can use up to 20 compatible channels at once, which is quite a bit. That is going to depend on the wireless environment, of course. And the battery life on this is 8 hours. It will depend on what type of battery you're using, but most AA batteries, they'll survive on 8 hours, which is plenty. The main difference between the 100s and the 500s is the RF tuning bandwidth. Almost everything else is going to be the same. There are a few differences when I go over the transmitter and the receiver. I'll show you that. So the 500 has an 88 megahertz bandwidth, RF tuning bandwidth, with 3,520 selectable frequencies, and up to 32 of these can be used at once. So you have more channels that you can search through and scan through to find a clear signal. Definitely a plus about getting the 500s, although you are going to pay a little bit more for that. And it's up to you to decide if that's worth it. In my opinion, it is worth it. All right, so how to scan for the clearest channel and sync these two together. So what you want to do is you actually want to have this one off. Have your transmitter off. And on your receiver, push the set button, and you're going to scroll through until you see easy setup. Hit the set button again, and you want to scan a new list. So you hit scan, and what it's doing is right now you'll see that it's scanning between 470 and 516 megahertz to find the clearest channel available. All right, so now that it's done, it's going to tell you the different banks and how many channels are free. So if you scroll through bank channel 2 has 12, channel 3 has 12, 4 has 12, 6 only has 10, 7 has 11, so on and so forth. Usually the first one that it gives you is the best one. So hit set, and then you can scroll through the options that it gives you. So group or bank 2, channel 6 or 7. So I'm just going to go with the first one that it recommended, 2, 1. And now it's stored. So now all you have to do is on your transmitter, open it up, and it syncs over infrared right here. So all you have to do is hit sync, put this right next to it. It flashes, it gives a check mark, and you can see now that they are both set to the same channel, 476.100 megahertz, and this one is set to 476.100 megahertz. It no longer says mute on there, and the RF signal, can you see the RF signal right there? That has gone all the way up, whereas when it was off, when I turn this off, it's completely gone. So that's how you scan and sync. All right, so going through the settings on your receiver. So first of all, you can tell if what channel you're transmitting on, and it also gives you what bank and what channel. So that's bank 2, channel 1. You can also name it, which is right here, but it does give you a little bit of information. So when I turn this on, you can see that the RF signal strength is incredibly strong. And then when I plug in, and then like I start tapping on the cable, you can see the audio, it's getting a signal as well. And you can see how hot that is, and it's pretty hot. So I'm actually going to show you how to turn that down. All right, but some of the settings on here. Scrolling down on the main menu, actually, you get this sound check mode. So when I tap, the cable that this is plugged into, you can see how hot the signal is. So you can strum and see if your signal's too hot, but you can also see that right here. So, but anyway, so hit the set button, and you get to scroll through your menus right here. Let me darken my screen a little bit so that it's easier to see what's going on here. So you can name this, so you can hit set, and then you can scroll through and name this whatever you would like. Hit set and scroll through and name it something else. Just gonna leave it on what it is right now. Scroll up and you have AF out. So this is how loud the volume is when you're coming out. So if it's too hot of a signal, so hit set and you can turn that down. You can go as low as -24 or up as high as +16 decibels. So I'm just gonna leave that back on 6. You have an equalizer in here, and then put up, and you have a low cut plus a high boost, just the high boost, and flat. Usually I leave that on flat, but in case if you need it, you have that option. Auto lock, so if you set this to active or inactive, so if you set it to active, and you'll watch, but after a little while, that little lock will show up. Right now it's unlocked from no activity. Give it a second. Now it's locked. Now when I bump anything, if I hit anything, if I hit set anyways, it won't let me, or hit the power button, it won't accidentally turn off. The way you get out of that, I forgot how to do that for a second. So the way you get out of it is you hit set, you push up to unlock and then hit set again, and now it's no longer locked. So I'm going to turn that to inactive because I don't want it to lock during this setup. But that can be a nice way to not accidentally have to worry about something getting bumped. So like I said, the easy setup right here is what you do to scan for a new list. You have an option, you have reset list and current list as well. And then current list is just a way to get back to see which one, what it found, so you don't have to scan again. So say you're like, this channel's not really working, I'm going to go to bank 3 channel 2 or something like that. So you have that option there. So when you scroll up, you have preset, frequency preset. So you actually can just choose the preset yourself. So say I want 912, and I can hit set and manually set the channel yourself. And then you can do that on the transmitter as well, but I'm not going to do that. All right, so squelch. So one of the things you want to do actually is when you scan, you want to set the squelch to low. And then when you are ready to play, I set the squelch to medium. And you can actually see the squelch, see the dots over here. Watch how they change. When I go to low, the dots are low, they come up a little bit, and then they come up a little bit more. So that's basically the threshold on which when it gets noise above that, you can get, that white noise, that static like type of sound. So I keep it on medium just in case if it does get some interference, it doesn't get that white noise static type of sound, which is incredibly obnoxious. But the way I do this is I set it to low, I scan, and then when I'm ready to play, I set it to the middle. All right, in advanced, you have the tuning. So you can actually set the tuning, actually go in and change the frequency to whatever you would like it to be specifically. You can control it that way, not just bank and preset. This is pretty cool. You have guitar tuner. So you can turn that on. Now on the main screen, you can scroll down, you have sound check, and now you have a tuner right here. So now when I strum my A, you can see that my A just slightly sharp. Here's my D, and there's a tuner built in here. And you can either do audio mute when you're on that setting, which I would recommend doing, leaving it active or leaving it inactive so you can't even access it. But you might as well turn it on. Pilot tone, active or inactive. This basically is just having a tone that goes between the transmitter and the receiver. I actually did a video on why you would want to turn that off, and I found an in-ear monitor hack. So check that out on the only reason why you would really want to turn that off. If for some reason they're not syncing up, I guess you could try turning this off, but for the most part, you just want to leave this on. You're not going to have any problems with it. The contrast, so you can turn up or down the contrast based on what you need to see for when you're at a venue. You can reset, but I'm not going to do that. You can just reset it. You can see what software you're on. So that's basically it on the receiver. All right, so on the receiver, we're going to leave things dim so you can see this screen. But when you push the set button, you can scroll through a couple of different options in here. So first of all, sensitivity. So you can set the sensitivity of the signal going from the transmitter to the receiver. So most of the time, you actually want to turn that down. I know this is my violin players, so she had to turn hers down a decent amount in order to get it so that it wasn't clipping. So it's really nice that you have that option in here. Scrolling up, you have that frequency preset, so you don't have to sync these together. Remember how you can manually choose that? So I can go in here and say, I want preset 6.2, and you can hit set, and it would set that automatically. You can change the name in here as well if you'd like to call it something else. You have the auto lock here as well. So if you'd like this to lock, you can set that to active. And then you'll see in a minute from not doing anything, the lock symbol will show up. It's saying you're about to lock, we're about to lock. And now it's locked, and now I can't hit anything, but if I push set and then unlock and then up, I can unlock it. So then in the advanced, you have the tuning again in here, so you can manually set this to exactly what frequency you would like. In advanced, you also have mute mode AF or disabled. So when you have this on or off, you'll see when I flip that switch, it'll mute. But if I have that set to disabled, it doesn't do anything. So some people like that because they'll accidentally bump this or something. They don't want that to happen. They usually like having a mute switch on. Cable emulation. So you have a cable emulation. I never use this. If you want to emulate the tone of a cable, you have that option, but that's not for me. Pilot tone, active or inactive. Make sure that they're both active. And again, watch that video on the only reason why I found on why you would want to turn off your pilot tone. But for the most part, you want to leave that on. You have the contrast again so that you can change the brightness, or the contrast, and you can see what software version you're on. You also have reset, which I'm not going to do. So that's basically how the system works. All right, so this is my 500 one. There's not a whole lot of differences between this one. There's a couple of things that you get that are different. This is the transmitter. You have RF power, so you can set it to standard or high. If you're going really long distances, you have that option in here. That's the main difference of the transmitter. On the receiver, again, my receiver is the portable one, but again, this should apply if you're using the normal one as well. You do get a headphone out with this one. You can set the phone volume here. Squelch, instead of just low, medium, and high, you can actually manually set the decibels. So when I'm scanning, I set it down to 5, and then when I'm playing, I set it up to 15. Slight difference. And then you have you have the sync settings here. So if you're using the SK or the SKM Sennheiser or the SKP, you can set the sensitivity on those specific ones. So you can set, for the SKM, I can set the sensitivity up to 0, whereas on the SKP, I can set the sensitivity to -6 or something like that if I wanted to. But mostly the big difference is the RF tuning bandwidth and the fact that you can turn the RF power to high if you're going really far distances. Okay, so as far as pricing, it kind of depends on what you get this with. So if you get it with a microphone, for the EW100, it's going to cost you about $700. If you get it with a lavalier microphone, it's going to cost you about $700 as well. And if you get it with a guitar system, it drops a tiny bit to about $600, $630. I have seen it go on sale for down to as low as like $550. So definitely watch for those deals. So going up to the 500 EW500s. So with a microphone, it's going to cost you about $900 up to like $1,600. I've seen. It depends on the microphone. Using it with a lavalier mic is going to cost you about $1,000, and then using it with the guitar system, actually the price is a little bit lower at about $850. And again, you'll see the price fluctuate a little bit based on sales. So you are spending a little bit, definitely spending a good amount of money, but I think this system is such a great system to use that it's absolutely worth it to spend this kind of money to get something that's as reliable as this. That's just my opinion personally. So my favorite feature about this is being able to see the RF signal when I turn on the receiver. I use this because I'll turn on the receiver and I'll make sure my transmitter is off. If it's getting a little bit of a signal in the RF, then I know that there's already a signal being transmitted in this frequency. It could be strong, could be weak, but either way, if I'm seeing any signal, I know to scan. If I don't see any, then I know that it's a clean signal and I just turn on my transmitter and I just go. I've used that method for years now using this system, and it's been great, and I haven't had any interference using that method. You might want to, if it's a really important show, you might want to just scan anyways for the best channel, but in my opinion, you can definitely get away using this method, and it's super cool that that's on this system. I haven't seen that on any other system before. All right, so I think this system is great. This is one of the best wireless systems that I've ever used. I mean, this is my main go-to wireless system that I use all the time. Yeah, I've used tons of wireless. If you look at my videos, I've done tons of reviews on different wireless systems. This one is the one that I've settled on as my main go-to wireless. I love this system. You can see if the channel's taken when you turn it on, a wide RF tuning bandwidth. I've never had any problems with this system, so it's really worth it, in my opinion, if you're looking to spend the money to get a nice wireless system and not looking to buy like cheap stuff. So should you get the 100 or the 500? This is really up to you, and really up to you on your budget. So, I mean, I keep leaving the 300 out, but I mean, if you're looking to save money, you're going to get the 100. If you're looking to spend a decent amount of money, you're going to get the 500. That's kind of my opinion. I've used both, and I have both. I have the 100 and the 500. Most of the time what I use is anytime I'm playing a bar gig, I use the 100s. Anytime I'm playing a wedding or a bigger event or a nice high-end corporate event, I bring the 500s. In my opinion, it's, if you're a full-time musician, if it's a really important for you to have a full functioning wireless, I would go ahead and just get the 500. That's just my opinion. You're never going to complain about having that much more of an RF tuning bandwidth and more frequencies to choose. You're never going to be upset about that. However, if you're more of a hobby player and you are just looking to have a nice wireless system, you cannot go wrong with 100. It's a great system, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. I just think that paying a little bit more to have that extra RF tuning bandwidth is 100% worth it for me as someone who does this full time, but you're going to be happy with either one of them. So I hope this helped you guys out. If you guys found this video helpful, just do me a favor and hit the like button. It does a ton to help out the YouTube algorithm. I know it's annoying that YouTubers ask for it, but it is really actually helpful. So I would appreciate it. Leave a comment down below if you've had any experience with this system, or if you have any other gear that you want me to check out. I'm always looking to check out new gear. So check out some of my other wireless videos that I've done by clicking the links on your screen now. Don't forget to follow me on my social media pages videos at Scott Yule Music. That's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Instagram being the favorite one. Thank you guys again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe.